You are an Iron Man!
Welcome to episode 33, and today I'm joined by Lorcan Healy. Lorcan, you're very welcome onto the podcast.
Cheers, Mickey. Thank you. It's great to be asked, to be fair. I've been listening to many of them and really enjoyed them, so it's great.
Good stuff. Lorcan, the last time you and I chatted, we were actually out on a cycle. Not your average Sunday cycle, it has to be said. It was a very special cycle because it was a cycle to celebrate your dad's 70th birthday.
Yes, absolutely.
What a way to celebrate your birthday, because your dad picked a nice handy wee course for us all to go on to. What did he refer to it as? A wee challenge?
Just a wee challenge,
Remind us what the wee challenge was.
Well, his thought of a great birthday party would have been leave Oma and cycle Pigeon Top 3 times, the 3 different ways. And I think some of the gradients for maybe, 22% he pitched out at near the top. So, yeah, just a wee average 70th birthday party there, Mickey.
It's absolutely amazing, a 70th birthday party. And as I got back to St. Enda's club rooms afterwards, where we all regrouped and debriefed and had some coffee and buns and took a bit of time to congratulate Sean on his birthday. And I commented to one of the guys, this is like the triathlon equivalent of a birthday beating.
Absolutely, I remember that.
But hey, it's obviously your dad very kindly shared his journey and spoke at length about the history of the triathlon club, and it was a fantastic episode and many people have listened to it. But what was it like for you growing up with who I'm going to refer to as Iron Dad?
Yeah, it was amazing, to be fair. Looking back, it was unreal. Childhood was just amazing. Just brought up with sport around you every day, not just dad but mum as well. So people forget that mum would have done triathlon as well. I think she done lane ball and things. So yeah, I've grown up not really knowing any different really. Sport has been there from pretty much day number one. If it wasn't football, it was cycling, swimming, or triathlon. So yeah, it's been amazing, and I'm sure my sister Laura would say the same as well, to be fair.
It's kind of very interesting for me to be able to spend time speaking to guys like you and people like your mum and dad, because it's those types of family values that have inspired me, and one of the driving forces behind my decision to try and change things and to turn things around. Always very conscious of how we are as parents and how our children look up to us and sometimes copy us. And I guess that's quite evident with yourself. It's fair to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing. I think when you look at fitness, it's massive thing for your whole life. Really, it's looking after your body, and you only get one, and it's just for your longevity and stuff. Just doing fitness alone is incredible. So really, obviously, mum and dad, massive thanks for that, because I don't really know any other way of living but just training and keeping fit and just looking after myself, really.
Well, that's absolutely amazing, and we will come to celebrate just how good you got, particularly within triathlon. But I suppose just interested to find out what it was like in the early days, Lorcan, just sort of before you got into triathlon, sort of growing up. You had mentioned football, where you're swimming and biking, and how did it all come together? What was your journey to triathlon?
So yeah, it would have been, as far as I can remember, I must have been about 4 or 5, and I can still remember this. Straight up out of bed, lifted out of bed, put in the back seat of the car, straight to lane ball triathlon, absolutely wrecked. Dad would have raced, maybe they done a wave starts, and Dad would have raced first. And I remember just running around. The race used to be on a series of football pitches. And I remember Dad racing, and I remember trying to run after him in the races. And then maybe in the different wave, Mum would have raced, and then Dad would have been looking after me as well, and also Laura. And that's from day number one. That I can still remember that day. I was about 5 years of age in the car. And I remember just loving them days, going away, watching it. I remember particularly Connor and Netta. I think I've pretty much just grown up with Connor as well. I think he was in one of the previous podcasts. And then just really started then with football, just with friends at school, like going to football and stuff. For almost and Dendis would have been the local club. And then dad would have been getting pretty serious at triathlon, and so would mum, really. They would have been competing. So I kind of seen that they were training nearly every day, and I was like, this is quite cool. I wish I was doing that. Whether at the football, maybe you're only training 2-3 times a week, whether you seen your dad out every single day. So then I was like, you know what, I want to train a wee bit more, a wee bit harder probably. And then that's when I said I want to join the running club to get faster. So yeah, so mum took me down to Omaha Harriers. It was a Wednesday night. I still remember it on the track at the leisure centre, and it was a fella called Bill McCausland was taking it. And I remember back then the juniors would have been really strong, and I remember he made me do a 2 mile time trial, and that was the first session of the Harriers that I remember. And I remember he come up to me and shook my hand. He goes, "No bother." He goes, "I'll see you back Friday night, 6 o'clock. We'll meet here. See you then." And that was the first real encounter with proper, actual competitive sport that I would have had. So yeah, so throughout then it would have been mainly cross country with the Harriers, and just fell in love with trail running from really young age. Growing up beside the Gorge and Glens, I remember being in it 3-4 times a week when you were younger running. And so competed then, a lot of trail races, going through school and stuff, and got my first Northern Ireland vest for Northern Ireland in trail racing, mountain racing. I think Alistair Brownlee actually won that race, which is quite incredible. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And yeah, and then like cross country was massive back in the day in the Harriers. Like I remember like training with like people like Stevie Duncan and things, and just looking up to these guys and being like, that's what I really want to do. And just happened to be that the juniors at that stage in the Harriers were incredible. The coach was incredible. Bill McCausland, probably say safely big influence on my running career anyway. We won numerous Northern Ireland and Ulster medals, and we were always one of the favourites. We just could never beat Finn Valley from Donegal, but it was always us against them head to head every single year across country. Brilliant days, going away in the bus. The crack with the lads was mighty. Training partners were class. 3 times a week at the Harriers, 6 to 7, having the crack, just training really hard and just loving it, really. Like that's the main thing that I always said. Like back then it was deadly crack, and I just loved training. And then just when I got to about maybe 16, 17, picked up a few wee injuries, bit of growing pains here, all good slatters type stuff. And I remember we were living in Derry Road at the time, and a new bike shop opened up, and Dad took me in and he goes, "Here, sure, we'll start a bit of cycling. I'll get you out on the bike." And he bought me a felt. I still remember the wee blue carbon fibre felt. First cycle I ever done, he took me to Berra, from Oma to Berra, I think it's 10 mile and cheapers. I nearly died, Mickey, to be honest. I've never felt anything like it. I was probably a bit cocky, being like, "Oh, sure, it's only a cycling. It's only cycling," but when you're out in the road, it's a different story. And I remember that, just falling in love with the bike from then. And ever since that day, I've loved cycling so much. And then when you think about the swimming, really, I remember Dad going swimming himself, and he'd just drop you into the pool and say, "Right, I'm way to do a session. Enjoy yourself." And he taught me to swim himself, really. And yeah, I've always been pretty decent swimmer, because I remember I was in the pool from about 5, really. Him teaching me drills and my stroke and things like that there. So yeah, like from early on, I've been pretty much involved in the 3 sports. And then I remember I said to him, "I'm going to do a triathlon. I'm definitely going to do a triathlon." So he entered me into, I think it was Newton Abbey Triathlon. I'm not even too sure if it still goes, Mickey, to be fair. It was a pool swim. It was sponsored by Stenaline
Right.
at the time. I remember like being good at swimming. Done a few swim galas and was always maybe top 2 in the front crawl and stuff. So it's okay, like for triathlon standards, you were decent enough. And I remember like obviously you had to put your time in for the swim for your 30 lengths. And I remember must have been an okay time. Dad put, he probably tried to get me in a fast lane, of course, but looked at the lane start, and there's bloody Brian Campbell, who had just represented Northern Ireland at the Commonwealth Games on the lane. So yeah, I
No
wasn't
pressure.
too well, to be fair, thinking about that, Mickey, before the start. But you know what? I think he lapped me about 20 times in 30 lengths. But I got out anyway. I got out anyway and got on the bike, and again I got overtaken by about 50 people. And then onto the run, but I knew regularly my run was okay. So I won my age group there. I think I was maybe around an hour and 15 minutes for my first sprint distance triathlon. So ever since then, I remember I was like, right, I am getting better at that, and I am going to win one of these one day. And that was literally, the fire was lit for me, just to nail training. And I remember, Mickey, honest to God, coming home from school, jumping on the bike, doing 10 miles as hard as I could after school to Bear and back, and then going to Harriers in the evening. And that was a double session, pretty much 3 times a week after school. It was mad when you think about what you were doing, but the body was that young, you could recover so quick. Yeah, it was nuts when you think about what you were doing back in them days. But yeah, I loved every second of it. I would go back if I could, to be fair, Mickey.
Hey, what age were you whenever you're putting all that together? Just so that I'm trying to figure this out in my head.
Oh, that was at school, so that was even like pre GCSEs, like school cross countries. That's first year, second year, third year, all there. Yeah, yeah,
So your first triathlon was a junior. You were as a junior then, were you?
yeah. I think it was about 16, 15, 16, Mickey. Yeah,
Brilliant, unbelievable. And there was no messing about with your dad. Your dad was just you were getting into this lark whether you liked it or not. Get up
pretty
out of
much.
that
Yeah,
bed,
literally.
cub. We
Top.
don't have a
Yeah,
babysitter organised, and I've got lame ball to get. So get in the car.
yeah. And them days too, Mickey. I was actually talking to someone from work and being like, I remember, mum and dad being like, here, we're away to do a triathlon. You're 15. Look after your wee sister there. Nowadays you wouldn't get that, but yeah, it was class, eh? Oh, I loved it.
Oh, brilliant stuff. It sparked a wee memory for me there as well, actually, because whenever you said that your dad brought you along to the pool and sort of let you do your own thing, and then he's away for doing drills, it reminded me of doing that as well in my cubs.
Brilliant.
Whenever I was training for just general training, bringing the youngsters to the pool. And there was actually one particular moment where I was going up and down. I was just doing lengths. I told them I was going to do sets of 20 and to try not to annoy me until they seen me standing at the bottom at the shallow end. But of course, like 3 lengths in, as I'm approaching the deep end, the two lads are under the water pointing up, with the goggles, like, and I go, for
Class.
Christ's sake, I tell you. And I stopped my watch and I got up and said, what is it, boys? What is it? And the wee boy, Peter, said, can we get into the lane with you, Daddy, and swim? And I said, absolutely, of course you can. And that made my year. Hey, that was the best thing that I had ever heard, because that's what I wanted. I wanted my cubs to copy me
What do you
for
want?
what I was doing, and that just made my year. Hey, I'll never forget that. It was such a wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful thing.
Brilliant,
Um,
brilliant.
and something that you've been blessed with since you've been knee high to a grasshopper, I suppose. Fantastic stuff. When did you start to well, I suppose you've already said you kind of figured out early doors that you had a bit of a natural talent for triathlon, and then you started maybe turning things up a wee bit and started getting a wee bit more
Yeah.
focused.
Yeah, well, it was more the Harriers. I realised earlier on that I never really had massive amount of speed, even back playing football. Could never really sprint as fast as the guys, but I could outrun them. And when I was a junior at Harriers, if there was a session potentially like say 15 or 400, you would always be maybe at the back of the group. But then if you were doing a session maybe on later on in the week where the fatigue had built up, but you were doing a longer session, mainly cross country or in the glens, so maybe an hour and 15-minute run with intervals, but no real static rest, that my endurance was a lot better, and realised that potentially this could have a massive implication for a successful triathlon career, because it's over a long distance when you're younger. An hour racing is a long time.
So you kind of just clocked that. Did you realize that from by yourself, or did Dad have a wee word with you, or how did you come
Uh,
to? It seems that
I,
you were quite young, and obviously you're very clued in. I'm very interested to pick your brain about heart zone training and stuff. We'll maybe touch on that later.
yes, perfect.
But
Yeah,
from an early age, you were quite mature with regards to the type of athlete that you would subsequently become.
yeah. It was actually Bill McCausland from the Harriers said to me about it. To be honest, it was because Harriers used to be like a session on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night. And it was mainly like a speed session, and then you would do like a long tempo session later on in the week, and then maybe potentially a long run in the glens. But my fatigue resilience, as Bill would put it, would be quite high compared to some maybe the other lads, and my ability just to keep going at a high tempo, maybe not in the threshold, but at a tempo pace and just keep it going all day, was been there from day number one. And it's probably just one of them genetic things that's probably maybe a wee bit more slow twitch muscle fibers, because back in the football, when you look back when you're playing football or sprinting at school, I would never have been up there with any of the fast guys or anything like that. So yeah, I was clocked earlier on, and I would have been quite clued in, and just the fact that I didn't want to be beat, and I'll be completely honest, back in the day, the group I was in was really competitive, and you wanted your top six starting in that cross country line. So every session you kind of had to buck up, like, or else you're not maybe going to be like counting top six and get that medal, you know. So yeah, it was clocked earlier on. To be fair, Mickey, yeah.
And that's that will to win and the urge to compete made sure that every single training session that you done, probably subconsciously, but over time, was maxed. I mean, you maxed out on all those training. If it was asking off you, you answered it. Do you know what I mean? There
Yeah,
was no
like
holding back. So you were really there was no shoddy. I'm trying to say there was no kind of you weren't bluffing. And if you're training when you were in that competitive group,
yeah, no, like the only we would have been going maxing out every single day, but just the coach there, or Bill McCausland, would always tell you rein it in a bit. You know, he was quite good that way. But yeah, if he wasn't there, you would have been 100 mile an hour every single training session. Definitely, yeah.
so tell me about how you got into your triathlon sort of. And obviously you joined Open Triathlon Club, but just talk me through how that kind of transpired that you sort of moved away from the running solely and began into the multisport aspect.
Yeah, it was literally just hit probably the age about, I don't know, 14, 15. Just picked a few injuries up, just training, running all the time. Running 6 days a week as a youngster at that age is probably not great for you. Running too hard every session as well, Mickey. So I just picked a few niggles up, and then that's when Dad bought me the bike, you know. And then Dad just, remember one day, just come into the room and goes, right, up, we're heading to the triathlon club here, let's go. Remember, I don't even know if I heated my porridge up or not. I was trying to lie on. I was a bit of a teenager, you know, and then just jumping the bike and away down to the triathlon club at the leisure centre. At that stage, it would have been quite small, like, you know, there wouldn't have been as big a numbers as there is now. And I remember just the bike just being absolutely annihilated every day on the bike, Mickey. And I still remember to this day being like dropped every session. Every session you were dropped. It was a wee bit different back then, that maybe the last 5 mile or the last 30 minutes would have been a bit of a chain gang, you know. A wee bit harder maybe back in them days, that if you were dropped at your own fault, see at the leisure centre after. Which is probably a really good thing, to be honest. It made me hard, like, it made me used to hurt. And one of the things that I'll always credit myself is I can hurt really bad, probably a lot more than some people, to be fair. I think that goes a long way in endurance sports as well. And I remember that one day getting dropped, and I was like, next week I am not getting dropped, and I don't care how hard it's going to hurt, I am not getting dropped on the bike. So the next week come, I was dropped a minute from the finishing points where they were stopping the chain gang, and it really infuriated me. Like, I was so angry getting home. And I remember Dad was like, just calm down, you were chill, like you nearly lasted the whole ride. But I was like, I'm not getting dropped next week. So the next week stayed on, and I wasn't happy with myself that I was able to hang on to the strong boys in the cycling group. I was like, I want to be that man dropping people. And from that
Mm-hmm.
day on, I said to myself, I'm going to make myself the strongest cyclist that I can. And I think I just doubled my hours of cycling from then. And then it was just like, yeah, then literally my dad just says, right, you're cycling pretty well. Why do you not just enter a triathlon? And I think he just done it all for me, Mickey. I'll be completely honest with you, and says, right, next Saturday there's that triathlon. Are you going or not? And like, I can't really remember exactly like why I said, aye, let's go. I just remember Dad had entered me, and that was it. And I was going to do it. And I bloody loved it, I'll tell you that anyway. And that was, the fire was lit, hey, and I never looked back then, Mickey, to be honest.
Where do you get that drive from at a young age? I'm just curious because I remember being a young age too, but my teenage years were smoking fags and listening to Metallica, and
Yeah.
maybe an old dodgy can of Stagger. Do you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
okay, yeah.
But
When you go to uni, you do the drinking and all too. But
but
I
that
don't know,
that
like
that will.
maybe I just competitive as hell, to be fair, but only on sport. Anything else, I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less on anything else but sport. So it really just drives the competitiveness, and I just do not like being beat, and that's completely honest. But anything else, yeah, I'm not competitive at all. It's just a switch clicks and that's it. You just want to win.
And see, just with the cycling there as well, the way you talked about that wanting to be that guy that's going to be dropping the other people. How long did that process take you then to get there? Because I get scared when people talk about, well, it'll take 3 years to get your cycling legs, and there's probably an element of truth to that, but I guess you'd been cycling for a brave while up until that point anyway.
No, it took me about 2 years, to be fair. Yeah, I think cycling is one of them things that takes a long time, and you have to do a lot of it. If you're cycling 2, 3 times a week, it's probably going to do not very much. It's not going to improve that much. I remember I was cycling maybe 5, 6 times a week, maybe 4 or 5 hours on Saturday, and then old school turbo session in the spare room with nothing, staring at a wall and a stopwatch, and that was it. But Dad as well, he had the old school turbo, and I remember just doing sessions like that maybe. In the garage as well, I remember it, freezing cold. Yeah, but yeah, like I ended up developing myself into a really, really good cyclist. Strong triathlon wise, but not cycle race wise. And there's a big
Yeah.
difference, so there is. But I remember then, yeah, I would be confident enough on my bike going into triathlon that you probably would be one of the top guys. And a few of the triathlons that I would have done then, just from that base training years ago, you'd probably never have been potentially taken over on the bike unless there was some absolute unit there, like Spray and McChrystal would have been about them days and stuff, and you was no chance you're hanging with those guys. Like,
So you did mention there that you wanted to be one of the top guys, and it's probably fair to say that you were one of the top guys, certainly one of the top guys out of the club, particularly in your age group category back then. I want to maybe start off with, if you can think back to 2012. I know you and I have been talking sort of before this recording, and we've got a sort of a timeline together. But you hit the ground running whenever you actually put your mind to it in 2012. Talk us through that year.
yeah, so just coming up to 2012, I was doing really well. Like every race I would have went to, I was top 10 overall in triathlon wise, and then I was going to university. I kind of looked at unis, like, and I ended up going to Sheffield, not because of triathlon now, that was just the course I got into. It was in Sheffield in the Peak District, and it just happened to be Peak District. Sure, where else could you be? Where's better training? Look who's training around you. Is the top guys in England are all there, really. The Brownlees just are across in the Yorkshire Dales and stuff. So yeah, went to Sheffield. I'll be completely honest with you, Mickey. I remember like going down, like they would have had really, really top clubs, swimming wise, cycling and running. Like, and I remember the first day in Sheffield being like, right, I'll go down to the swimming club. But it's really bad to say, but you would have been maybe one of the top swimmers around Oma and stuff, and you would have been maybe in the fast lane, and you're maybe lapping ones, so you've got this air of confidence about you that you maybe need put down a peg or two, and I definitely think that's what happened to me my first couple of weeks in Sheffield. Is like I remember landing down to the swim club and being the only man standing on the side of the pool with jammers on, like kind of long swimming shorts down to your knees, like lycra, and being like, what the hell, the complete odd one out, everyone in their Speedos.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, yeah, it'll be grand. Hey, I'll jump in here. I didn't jump into the fast lane right enough, but I jumped into one of the faster lanes. And I remember after the length, the guy was like, go down to the slow lane there. Next time, 2 seconds later, here, go down to the slow lane. Ended up in the slowest lane. And I
From
remember
being
being
king
like,
of the hill, in the leisure centre to bottom of the pile in
not even the
Sheffield,
leisure
and
centre, but the whole of Northern Ireland, like triathlon wise, anyway, like I was mainly coming out top 5 out of the water, top 10. You go to England, and I'm telling you, like my eyes got open. It was a massive baptism of fire of the standard over there. Is like it's incredible. Like these guys are absolute animals, and realistically, coming from Northern Ireland, from Oma over there, maybe you were doing really well, but definitely the standard over there was just an exceptional step up. So it was. And I remember starting off over there in the slow lane, in one of the swim clubs, the Masters swim clubs. And that really opened my eyes. And then I remember the warm up, the guy was just old school, there was no beating around the bush. And I know my leisure centre knowing what a tumble turn there, that wasn't a big thing. But I remember he said to me, he's like, here, if you don't start tumble turning, I'm going to have to ask you to get out because you're slowing everyone else down. And I remember that one word was like, shit, I'm actually going to have to buck up here. And yeah, like that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. Like a wee bit of air of confidence going over, thinking maybe a wee bit of cocky, but I'm good, I'm pretty good. But yeah, no, you're not that good really when you go across the water and you have other guys there from Spain and things like that. It's definitely an eye opener to the standard of what is actually out there, And these guys are pure amateurs as well.
and would that have been a similar situation then across the running scene and the cycling scene too?
maybe not so much the running scene. Like I was always decent enough runner, maybe not unbelievable, but okay. And then with the biking, yeah, like you were terrible. Like I thought I was strong, and then you went over there and you're absolutely useless. Like you're getting dropped on the warm up climb. Remember there used to be a big climb out of Sheffield. First day out, absolutely dropped like a bag of spuds. To be honest, Mickey, and it's so different. Like the standard is beyond is what you can't really imagine what the standard is like until you go over and race over there and train over there. You think you're good here, and then you go over there, and there's other guys, and you're definitely very mediocre.
So I'm assuming then with your competitive nature and your want and will to be like those around you and to be better than those around you, that you knuckled down, put in the graft, and tried your damnedest within that cohort of athletes when you were in England,
Yeah,
presumably resulting in you coming back to Uma an absolute beast of a man compared to the guy that left. Would that be right or wrong?
absolutely. Like yeah, like I remember that scrum group. There was a proper coach every day. There was a coach on the pool bank. There was a session read out for you. He didn't just look at your times, it was all about technique. Literally, I remember he said, there's no going by bullshit here. It's just going to be honesty. And if you're not training hard, don't be coming back, pretty much. Cycling as well, yeah. Going out with a group of guys, like, just everyone was maybe better than you, or just slightly better than you. And the run was okay. The run kind of looked after itself with the athletics club there, so I wasn't too worried about it. But yeah, the cycling and swimming is really where I completely stepped up big style, and it was literally just surrounded by the standard of people and the standard of coaching over there, and the facilities as well makes a massive difference. Like we were swimming in 50-meter pool 4 to 5 times a week, and on a Friday nights, Mickey, it was from 7:30 to 9:30, 2 hours swim session in a 50-meter pool. Yeah, I remember like just a funny wee story. I remember like going out and a new guy had arrived as well. Like maybe this was when I was in second year then, and he landed down with buoyancy shorts on. And the guy coach just took one look at him, shook his head, and was like, "Here, take them off you, and don't be coming back out to my some squad with them on you." He was like, "We want to work on our weaknesses and stuff." It was quite hard, old school swimming training, but it was what you need. People over there were quite hard, there was no pussyfooting around it. It was just you're here to train hard. There's no gimmicks. The only thing that works is hard training, and that's it. And it was a massive eye opener to me, and it was probably the best thing that I've ever done.
Good stuff. It sounds a bit sort of drill sergeant stuff, but if you have the mettle to get through that and to take that positive criticism, and you did, then it obviously stood you in good stead.
Yeah, like I just went into it like I was like I'm really amateur here. These guys are top swim coaches because at that stage British swimming was based in Sheffield. So
Mm-hmm.
these guys were dipping in and out of it, and I was like, I'm just going to become a sponge here and absorb everything they're telling me because they're a lot better than me. They've coached a lot better athletes than me, and the only thing I can do here with their resources is improve, and that's literally my attitude the whole time I was training over there.
That's fantastic attitude, and it stood you in good stead too, Lorcan, because um, in 2013 you became quite successful in the triathlon. Um, Talk us through how 2013 panned out because you did really well that year.
Yeah, probably. I think that was triathlon. I think the double Olympic distance. Probably mum and dad don't even know the story, Mickey. They'll probably get a beating now when they see me next. But triathlon was on, and it was on the Saturday or Sunday, and I entered the double Olympics, so it was a pretty long race for me, my first long distance race. But I had just started placement in Sheffield Hallamshire Hospital. And I was like, crap, how am I going to get out of this? So I've attended the ring in sick on the Friday to placement first week. I'm while sick, I'll not be able to come in. That was about 7:30 in the morning to my educator, and I was like, if I get caught, I am screwed here. And then I jumped on a plane home, never told mum and dad. Just says, no, placement doesn't start till the week after. So they were the first time ever hearing that. And I was like, I remember going down the road with dad through Nace, I think it was, or I was like, shit, I better actually do good here, or I'll be screwed if my placement educator finds out I'm over here. And also, dad's going to go mental as well if he finds out. So I was kind of under pressure to do a decent result. Yeah, I went into that race, like, but coming home, like, kind of knew I was in decent shape anyway. First race of the season, first long race. I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to bomb the swim, go as hard as I could. Come out fourth in the water, and then I remember that race, come out fourth, got on the bike, and then just absolutely drilled the bike. and then was in second in the transition. My first time really running long off the bike, really. Probably didn't drink enough, and I remember I dropped a bottle of nutrition off the bike and just kind of flopped a wee bit the last 5k in the run, but still held on for fourth place, and I was actually really happy with that. It was kind of like the turn the circle where you're like, do you know what? I can actually compete here. I'm down south competing with some of the best guys here, and that was quite a big race back in the day. Triathlon, the whole village come out, and it was really good. And really happy with my swim, really happy with my bike, and then the run was kind of like, well, I kind of know what I'd done wrong, so it was always going to improve from that. And I kind of found out. Dad even said to me, he's like, "Oh, right, okay. I think maybe potentially half Ironman's probably going to be the distance that is probably going to be the best for your ability," and that was definitely true.
And that sort of endurance, physique, and genetics that you had already identified back then was obviously at the forefront of your mind then at that point too, because you're primed for that endurance piece combined then
Yeah.
with the speed. Just at that, you said you can do the tempo all day long type thing.
Yeah, and then to be fair, like Dad would have done a lot of my run training, like he would have penciled it in, and not many people know this, but Dad has actually got a master's in sports and exercise science. Probably, to be fair, like I've worked with quite a few coaches, but Dad's probably the best coach triathlon wise for biking and running that I've worked with, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. But he started me off that winter before that race actually with heart rate training, the maffetone method he was using, and I remember like that was the first time that I ever done that. And back at them days, I was flying high, and I remember being like, "This is actually working here." So it was. So Dad probably owes a lot of credit too there to get me in that shape as well. So yeah.
So you've mentioned the heart rate training. Let's go down that. Let's go down there now. Let's talk about the heart rate, and we'll come back. We'll come back to your triathlon. But what is this?
Yeah, like
So the MAFA training. What? Tell me a wee bit about.
so no, it's called maffetone training. It's a doctor, Dr. Maffetone. He's an American guy designed this real low zone 2 training, zone 1. That's keep your heart rate low, build that aerobic engine. As triathlon potentially after if you step up from Olympic or sprint distance, 90% of it is aerobic. It's aerobic work. Like there's no doubt about that. Maybe there's a couple of percent that you're hitting that threshold, but it's all aerobic work. So why not train that energy system to be as efficient as possible? Allow your body to be able to be as efficient in your aerobic system. Don't go out and do zone 3 every day of the week. That's not what you're racing at. That just makes you so tired. It's just a terrible zone to be training in all the time. You can't train consistently at that. You'll just fatigue, injuries. You'll just never be consistent, and that's why the low heart rate training, it just allows you to be far more like it just allows you to train with far more like a higher volume. In triathlon, I found volume is key. Yeah, the more volume you do of aerobic work, the better you will get. And it's no secret, to be honest. And I just found that just really worked for me. I just think people just don't give it enough time. It takes a long time to get used to it. I remember in Sheffield, it used to be quite hilly. First few long runs going out, Mickey, you'll be checking the heart rate monitor, you'll be coming to a hill halfway up, but you'll have to walk. Okay, Dad was just saying to me, I remember Dad rang me, he was just stick with it, just stick with it. And I was saying, this is shit, I want to run this crap. Hey. And he's like, just stick with it. And then 4 or 5 weeks later, you're like, oh, geez, look at my heart rate. I'm actually running this. Oh, flipping hell, yeah. Like, I'm actually running far faster here for the same heart rate. All right, okay. The next day you wake up after a long run, you're not tired. You don't need to recover as much because it's been such low intensity.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and the main thing, if anyone wants to do that, you shouldn't be training in a group. It has to be done on your own. Like, there's no way you can train heart rate training with other people. It just doesn't work. People are completely different. You can't go out in a group and go, I'm staying at this heart rate, because your man beside you is going to be completely different and his zones are going to be different. So it takes a wee bit of constraint and things, definitely you need to be a bit self-disciplined for it. But I swear by it. I'm back doing it now myself at the moment, and again, it's paying dividends. And my heart rate's really low, my efficiency is really high, and yeah, I swear by it. But I just don't think people know how to do it, and I think people don't want to be seen running slow. That's probably the main answer around the town. No one wants to be seen running slow.
It's something that I'm quite interested in, and it's wild interesting for me to listen to that back with the science behind it and a bit of understanding, because it's
I'll
something that
actually,
I
sorry,
try to
Mickey.
do that. So I try to run, but I don't really consciously think about it in the way that you're thinking about it with regards to the application and future longevity and productivity and efficiency and stuff. I kind of like just doing my runs in that slow mode because I don't want to get injured and I don't want to be knackered.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
whenever it comes to a race, I can step it up and then I don't take that while long to recover from it. So it kind of works for me as well. But I'm glad that you've explained that a wee bit because it makes a wee bit more, it makes me feel pretty good that because I'm zone two all day long. I
Well,
make no mistake.
zone two is key. I remember being in Lanzarote at a training camp, and there was a guy in Sands Beach who they don't be based there anymore, but he was a guy, he's Ironman pro called Stephen Bayliss, and I remember we went to a swim squad that morning. He ran a swimming workout that morning. And I remember he was just chatting a few months after, and he was like, "Oh, what are you doing later on?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm doing my long run, about 10 miles." And he was like, "Oh, right, what pace do you run that?" And I was like, "Ah, 7:15." He just literally looked at me and goes, "That's too fast." And he was like, "You should be running about 9 minute mile pace." He goes, "You want to get on the bike tomorrow and be able to cycle 4 hours and do a swim in the evening and not be tired." And that always stuck to me, that top pro telling me that.
Well, it makes sense. You know, if you're training 6 or 7 days a week and they run up to a massive event like an Ironman and you're covering huge miles, the last thing you want or need is to be injured or knackered or both.
Absolutely. Definitely, yeah,
You
definitely.
know, when you say it like that, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
No, that's solid. Thanks for sharing that. Let's get back to triathlon.
Yeah.
Let's talk stats. Am I right in saying in 2013 did you qualify for Worlds?
Yeah, went to the World Championships in London, just I was on pretty much on the Olympic course, yeah. Don't really remember much about it, I'll be completely honest. One of them races is just like, right, okay. I don't know, I just didn't really enjoy it, if I'm completely honest with you. I don't know why. Should have enjoyed it. Done a really fast time for Olympic distance. Only come 45th out of 90, but sub 2 hour Olympic distance. At home, you probably win, probably most of them at that time. But I just don't know. I just didn't really enjoy that race, Mickey. It wasn't the balls you thought it was going to be. But yeah, it's just good probably to say that you've went to the World Championships and you've raced on the Olympic course. Not many people can say that, really, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's the bit that you take from it. You know, you forget about the actual performance in the race and give yourself the well-deserved pat in the back for actually getting there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember just more enjoying the time over with mum and dad, if I'm completely honest with you. The race was kind of just like, I don't really know why I didn't enjoy that. I don't really remember much about it, I'll be completely honest. I just didn't like being in London. I don't like being in cities anymore. I just didn't like London at all. Hey, I hate that hustle and bustle, and I don't know. It's just one of them races I just didn't enjoy, but rather just spend the time with mum and dad over there was probably more, I just enjoyed that better than the actual race.
It's definitely a wee bit more noisy and busier than the country club that was running around the Glens, you see.
Yeah, exactly. Even in Sheffield there as well. It's a wee small city, and I was living near the Peak District, so yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
you weren't too far away from the open roads and the moors and whatever else up around there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, in 2014, then think back to your sort of in 2014, are you in back home on Irish soil then full time? Are
No,
you still
no, I'm
traveling
still in
back?
Sheffield. Still in Sheffield in 2014, Mickey. Yeah, I didn't move back home to 2015, I think it was. So I didn't.
But you were able to pick up some races in Ireland then, presumably over the summer, and that there, and you did pretty well in 2014 as well nationally.
Yeah, yeah. I just remember going and flew home, done the Lisbon triathlon. Just went to it as a race, like yeah, good race actually. First in it, probably the easiest race I've ever done. Come back absolutely flying. I remember it. Done it, and then yeah, I remember nearly got disqualified actually for before the race even started. Cycling the bike with no helmet on, the boy nearly broke his neck to grab me off the bike to tell me to put my helmet on. So the adrenaline was probably pumping there, to be fair. And then come home in 2014. Then done, was it 2014? Sorry, was City of Derry triathlon, Mickey. I think we're at third overall in it. You know, great event. He doesn't run anymore, but yeah, I remember that race, and I've said to myself that day, I got on the podium, third place, and I was like, I'm going to win that there next year. And City of Derry, I was like, I'm going to win that next year, and that was it. Yeah, and then 2014, then was the Lost Sheep Triathlon. I think people in the club would probably know it. The half Ironman distance national championships, probably the best race I've actually ever had, Mickey, if I'm completely honest with you. Going down there, completely unknown, no pressure on you. Met a few people at the start, being like, "Oh, you'll go pretty well here. You'll go pretty well here. Course suits you. Hilly bike, just hard racing, hard course, just what I loved." Come out of the water, I think I was about 15th out of the water, and I remember getting on the bike, being like, "Oh, there's a big climb coming up. That's my strongest part of the cycling." And I tucked in the LA, good, like there was a bit of a pace line going to the first, just up to the first hill, and I remember I was holding maybe 250 watts at a power meter on the bike, and I was like, "No, this is quite easy here." I remember taking over a guy. I was wearing an aqua blue jersey, and he said to me, "Don't F and draft me. Get the F up the road. What are you effing doing?" And I just said to him, I just said, "Here, race your own race. I'll see you later on." And I always remember that day. And then I remember first mile of the run, ran past him. And I remember I just said to him, "Well, you're going well. You're going well." And just headed up the road, hey. And yeah, like I remember that race coming into the finish line. I remember the last mile. I think I done in 5:20 after a half marathon. Took over about three people in the last mile on a big hill coming down into Kenmare, I think it was. Seventh place in the Irish Championships over half Ironman. My first proper full half Ironman. A few of the guys in front of me were all ended up. The top three pretty much were all professional. One of the guys actually went sub, I think, 8:30 in Ironman Barcelona later on that year. And one of the guys has actually been top 10 in Roth then, who was
Wow.
second, third that year. So yeah, and I remember people coming up to me, especially a guy, he probably doesn't remember this, but a guy that used to run a triathlon place down in Dublin, based a race, and shook my hand. And I remember he said to me, "That's some race there, well done, hey." And I remember there was a guy, Trevor Woods, who's originally from Oman, would have been a real beast back in the day. I remember him saying to me, "He goes, here, keep that up, that's effing class, hey." He goes, "That's unreal." And yeah, that all sticks to you, like, and I remember that's probably my best result ever. Seventh at the Irish Championships over half Ironman. That's such a good day.
Mighty, mighty stuff. And you must have taken some real good lessons from that, and more confidence moving ahead then, and more sort of belief. I mean, you always kind of knew that you were thereabouts, but this must have cemented something different.
Yeah, like I think, yeah, like it did. Like it definitely gave me confidence being going into races, being like, you know what, I'm not actually nervous anymore. I'm just excited to race these boys. And then from that day on, I never shied away from any championship races. I've never picked my races. I still don't pick my races to the day. I still went to the highest standard races that were on that day. You would have got some guys who are winning all around them, but they'll wait to see all the championship races. There's still some boys about that do it. They pick and choose the races they go to and they get all these wins. But if you're not racing the best, you can't improve. And I just loved racing the top guys. And that day there just cemented that, you know what, I actually want to try and be one of the top guys in the country over half Ironman distance. And yeah, from that day on, I never shied away from racing the top boys, even if you knew you were probably not going to win or not going to beat them. But I was always real motivated to step up against them guys, you know.
Brilliant stuff, and more than capable too, and hanging in there. 2015 then seen you picking up some top 10 finishes and podiums, I think, as well, even in pro races.
Yeah, there used to be a series. I don't know if they still run anymore, Mickey. The Castle series, you know, were a big race series over in England, and they held one down in Loch Cutra, and I remember going down there, and there was maybe 10 professional males in it. And I was like, I'm going to go down here. And remember, Dad was like, "You know what? That course suits you. You know, that's a hard bike. That's a brutal bike. The run looks pretty brutal as well. Like, you'll go well. You'll go well." And yeah, I went down there. There was 10 professional men on the start list. Remember going down to Galway with Dad that day, and I was like, "You know what? I'm going to friggin' nail this. I don't care. Hey, I've come down this far. I'm going to have a good race." Remember going down that day and the TT bike and all set up, and I always remember this, that I was racked beside an English professional guy who ended up winning the Outlaw Ironman that year. And I remember he made some stupid joke over the way I'd put socks on my shoe. And I just remember that, and that really infuriated me. I was like, just because you're a pro, like, just don't be a dick, like, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I remember just being like, "Oh, right, yeah," laughing at him. And you know what? I didn't even fix my socks in my shoe because I would have just given him the pleasure of doing that. And I said, "You know what? I'm getting him. I'm beating him." Yeah, so I didn't actually beat him though, but I nearly caught him in the run. He was third, and I ended up fourth. But yeah, fourth place in that Castle Series race was brilliant. I remember Dad was like, "Jesus, like you're the first non-pro. That's unbelievable. Like there were such highly regarded races back in the day." And then I remember like Trevor Woods again actually come to me and was like, you probably would have been 4 or 5 minutes quicker if you had used a disc wheel on that bike. And I was like, you know what, Tay? That bloody probably would have been right, Tay, because I was riding like kind of shallow ribbons on the TT bike at the time. But yeah, great race. Ended up coming out of the water fourth, Mickey, and I've just stayed fourth the whole day. But I remember Dash shouting splits to me in the run. It was like 3 lap run, I think, on a hilly enough course. And I remember every lap, I was like, "You're down to a minute. You're down to a minute. Come on, come on." I just literally ran out of road, really, to be honest. But yeah, that was a great race. Great memories. Remember the morning was absolutely freezing, and the mist over the lake. Don't even think I could see the first boy. I just followed the guys in front, Mickey. But yeah, good hard racing. Just loved it. That real hard, long effort, hard course. Make it as hard as you can for me. And yeah, I just loved it. Brilliant, brilliant memories. Just class.
The one thing I want to just pick up on, and I want you to reflect on it as well, is you refer to yourself there as the first non-pro, but there was 10 pros. There was only 3 of them beat you.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
You
know if they
beat
were
7.
fully yeah. I don't know if they were fully professional, like they weren't getting paid, but they'd all come over from England. They were all sponsored by triathlon shops, and they had some of them had nutrition sponsors and stuff like that. So I was seeing them as pros. They were pretty highly regarded over in England, and I was like, this is class to be among this. This is unreal. And yeah, that just ignited more fire. And I was like, I am going home to train hard. The motivation just went through the roof after that.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. Um, 2016, 2016, we're up to now, and well, I don't know the chronology of this, so you can keep me right on the chronology. How did 2016 pan out? Because it looks on paper to be quite the year for you.
Yeah, started off the year Letterkenny Olympic triathlon, second place behind Brian McChrystal. And if anyone who knows triathlon or bike racing, Brian McChrystal is an absolute beast of a man, absolute gentleman as well. Gave me the best advice ever at Dublin 70.3 later on that year. He probably doesn't remember that. Then went to Belfast Titanic, absolutely amazing race. Don't know why. I don't even think it's still going at the moment, but in running through the city, past the City Hall, just class. I remember absolute idiot, should have won the race, but stupid mistakes, taking her foot of the gas too early, and then there was a different guy in a different wave, who had he won his age group at the European Championships. Don't know why the organisers didn't put everyone like the top guys in together, like. And I remember like coming on the last mile, and everyone was like, "Oh, you've won it! You're a mile clear. You're a mile clear." And I remember just being like, you know what, this is a class race to win. Hey, I'm just going to take the foot of the gas and enjoy the last mile. And I remember coming in through, and then everyone was like, "Oh, you've won it, you've won it." And then he came in about 10 minutes later with a faster time, and I think the time was 2 seconds. He was 2 seconds faster than me. And I remember going home and being absolutely raging, but still a good result. Second place in Belfast Titanic Triathlon, you can't really complain. And then Dad took me down again to Galway, down for the National Javelin Championships. Heard this was going to be an absolute animal of a race. Bike went up round the Burren, I think, so tough enough bike. And I heard some of them guys that maybe were on the Triathlon Ireland development squad were coming home for it. So I was like, you know what, go down and see what long distance guy can do against the short distance. And got absolutely wheeled. I remember the first mile in the run was like 5 minutes, and I was like, I have 10k to run here at this, and then do a 25-mile bike and then a 5k run. Hey, but won the age group anyway, and ended up, I think it was top 10 overall, Mickey.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So it was. I think that was 2016. And then yeah, I think I done Challenge Pigera that year as well. Sorry, actually before that there was an Ironman branded race actually down in Dunleary. The start of it was Dunleary, and then they had a transition in Phoenix Park. And I said to myself, you know what? Bit skint here. I'm going to try the professional field here, try my luck and see if I get into the professional race. I ended up getting in. At that stage, triathlon Ireland were grading athletes, so at a top grade type thing, like kind of similar to what the cycling do. And I used it, and they were like, yeah, come on ahead. I think they were happy enough. And then I remember going to the race briefing there, and there's guys in the tent that you would have watched on TV, like, who was there? Like Blair Carmichael, I think his name was, and Mark Three for All, who does GCN on YouTube. Good top English pro guys. And then I was like, Jesus, I'm well out of depth here and that. And Dad was like, would you wise up? Hey, it's all in your head. It's all in your head. You'll be grand. You'll be grand. Remember going to the swim start. Shane McGill, fair play to him, come down to support me that day. Don't even think he was doing it. I think he just drove down to support. And I remember him at the start. He hit me and I was slap in the back, and he goes, "Go for it, kid." I'll never forget that. So McGill, like, to be fair. Yeah, I got in the water and just went hard as hell. I think, to be fair, I was probably second last out of the water. I then got on the bike and then was flying on the bike around that course. And I remember Brian McChrystal passed me and he stopped a wee bit and he was like, "Here, take the shortest route possible. They're closed roads. They're closed roads." And I always remember that advice. And he told me that. And I remember flying around the corners. And if they had them in closed roads and there was an oncoming car, yeah, it would have been disaster. But I was taking his word, they were closed anyway. And then got onto the run. I was off the run with the lead woman. And then, yeah, I just hammered the run and ended up coming home in 10th. So pretty decent result there.
Brilliant.
Was
Absolutely.
happy with that, And then end of 2016, then went to challenge Bagheera in Mallorca on my own. Hey, I was like, you know what, I'm feeling too good a shape to finish the season early. It's usually in October, so I went out on my own. And one of the guys that I'd be friendly with from university, who I trained with, a Spanish guy, was actually going out to do the race as well. And then went to challenge Mallorca and just started with the age group. But the swim, it was a choppy swim, real hard swim, real rough. And I was like, you know what, this is class. Just harder the better. Bike was going to be 2 climbs, just hard. Loved it. Run was going to be hard. I was like, this is class. I love this. Just give me hard. And yeah, I remember just putting the foot down in the swim and I ended up coming out, and I was like, you know what, coming back in, I took over about 15 people in the swim. And then Alex, the guy who was there, the Spanish guy, was like, "Yeah, you're nearly bloody top 10 here. Come on." And then I remember getting onto the bike, and the boys were pulling away on me in the flats. Maybe it wasn't such strong time trialist. And then got to the climbs and just flying, just kept a good steady pace, the 2-lap bike, and then got off the run. And Alex was like, "Here, lad, you're down to 15th. You're nearly top 20. You're still in top 20, but you're third in your age group. Or sorry, you're second in your age group. This is brilliant." And I remember on the bike just passing female pros and just looking at their number and be like, "Shit, they're a professional woman here. I'm picking places up, sorry." And then got into the tent, got my shoes on and went out for the 3-lap run. And every lap he was there, like my friend Alex, and he was just saying, "Look here, come on, your splits are class. They're class. Come on, there's a guy catching you in your age group, and you're picking off a couple of pro guys here. Come on." And then I remember just getting caught by an Italian guy with a mile to go, and I think I stayed with him. Have you done Challenge Bagheera? Have you? No. There's
No,
like
I haven't.
a bit of a descent, And I remember looking down at my watch, and I was like, you know what? I've only a mile to go here. I can hurt. I know I can hurt. Like, I just suffer, just absolutely suffer here. Just suck it up. And then I remember just taking a big deep breath, and the Italian guy caught me, and I knew he was in my age group because Alex was saying, "It's this guy. It's this guy." And I remember looking down my watch, and we were like 5:20, 5:20, 5:20 per mile, 5:10 last mile, 5:10 per mile. And I was like, "Jesus, I'm dying here, come on." But unfortunately, that guy just had enough stronger on the day, hey, and he pulled away and he beat me anyway. He was third in my age group and challenged Bagheera and passed a few pro men and beat the majority of the pro women. So I was really happy, really happy. And first time standing on a proper podium at an Ironman or challenge event. And after that, me and Alex went out in a massive rip then. Hey, I wasn't too fit the next day, Mickey, to be fair. Like, he fired a load of limoncello into me, hey, but it was good crack, and yeah, deadly wee holiday away, like, and just chilled out in Mallorca then. Remember 2 days later, we went out for 5 hours on the bike then.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
hey, what was it like to be standing on that? I know, like, you had a sense of success and you had been on podiums, but there must have been something about that podium, an international event in Spain with people from all over Europe and further afield. That wasn't one of these handy races. That was a big field, and to take them scalps to get to that podium, you must have felt absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. Hey, it was deadly, and you know what? After was brilliant. Like, it was class. the guy that was second place, like he was from the Czech Republic, you know, he like added me on Instagram and all, and was like, "Here, if you're ever going out to Lanzarote or you're going to Tenerife, give me a shout." And do you know what? They ended up going out to Lanzarote in the winter then, and he just happened to be there. And I give him a scene from his Instagram. He was there, and I give him a text on Instagram and met up with him. Went out for, I think we done 90 mile just randomly. It was class, like the way you just meet people over there, and guys are just so like minded. Yeah, it was great, and just the pride of being like, you know what, I've had a long old year. Hey, the year's been hard. I've missed a load of stuff. Like I've sacrificed a while lot to stand up here, and it's just hard work. Like there's just to stand on that stage takes hard work, and people don't give you probably enough credit for the work you put in. They just see the race day. They don't see going out at 8 a.m. on the bike here and the rain beating you and the fingers froze off you and you know, that kind of way. But yeah, it was brilliant. It was class. I remember even dad ringing me and mum ringing me, and they were so happy, and that was class as well. And my sister as well, like she rang me as well. I was like, that's brilliant, unreal in Spain, class. I remember she just says, have a few pints tonight, and I was like, you're bloody right, of But yeah, it was good crack. Eh?
Brilliant stuff. That's an amazing story. Um, where did the triathlon take you then from 2016?
Yeah, that's the problem. Okay, it all went wrong then. Too much motivation. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Just, I remember that after that, everyone, like a lot of people, like since Dublin, and were saying, "Oh, like you go to a race," and like people were saying, "Well, Lorcan, you're doing the national championships this year, of course, suits you." Round trial, I think it was off triathlon actually. I'm not even too sure if that event runs anymore, but they were like, "Oh, here, geez, you could be looking at top three," and that was in my head all winter. Top three, top three, top three. Like I'll get top three. I'll work top three, and just left all my heart rate training. The worst thing you ever done was stop that and switched coaches. I think got a different coach. Probably the worst thing I ever done. And like, yeah, just pure overtraining, pure over fatigue. Just lost complete motivation for it, Mickey. I remember getting into the pool one day and I done 200 meters, and I was like, I hate this now. This is shit. Hey, to get me out, and just went home. And I said to Dad, hey, I'm done. Hey, yeah, pure overtraining. Just yeah, that was a type pure overtraining, fatigue, not looking at your heart rate and stuff like that, and just lost motivation. And then that was that. Hey, I just says, you know what, I'm done with triathlon. Hey, yeah, unfortunately, I loved it, but too much of a good thing is definitely a bad thing. And I think if you do well, you have to be careful with the motivation, like especially after a long event, it takes a long time for your body to recover, and if you just keep punishing it, it's not going to thank you very much. And yeah, that was literally it, to be honest.
You've kind of come full circle now, though, Lorcan. You know, you've already sort of given us an indicator that you're back in the zone too, and you're back successfully training, and you're doing brilliant. But you did bang out an hour full distance triathlon just for old
Yeah,
time's sake there in
yeah,
your fairly
yeah.
recently.
Yeah, it was just a bit of a random old thing. I was in work. Well, I was working from home at that time because it was lockdown, and I was like just sitting about and like in a chair all day, Mickey. And I was running here, and I was out on a bike, and I was just farting about, and I was like, "Frigate, hey, I'll enter on for the crack, hey," but there was nothing on. So the only thing that was on was that bloody Airman, and I was like, "Ah, frigate, hey, I'll get a weekend in Kerry and get away with Eve, my partner, and I'll do it. Give me an excuse to go down there." And oh, Jesus, the training was awful. So there was no pools open or nothing. I think I done like five. I think I was like, right, you know what? I'm going to have to I'll ride 100 miles. So I rode five 100 milers, and I was like, ah, that'll do. And then on a road bike, and then I was like, done one 18 mile run. And I was like, that'll be grand, it'll be 100%. Hey, and then went down, nearly died. Just underestimated. Hey, hated every minute of it. Never want to do an Ironman again.
But
But
it was
yeah, no, it was class. Like deadly course. Don't know why Ironman hasn't come in and taken that course over. To be fair, like. It's
it,
good course now. Yeah, fair play to the guy. That guy that owns Hardman. Triathlon Ireland were having nothing to do with any races. To be fair, they just didn't want to know. But he, fair play to him. He stood up and run the only event that year. So yeah, it was great. Hey, good events, lovely scenery, great weather, bike route, not too bad. Wasn't as hard as you thought. Nice run. Yeah, perfect.
good stuff. It's something that I plan to do at some point,
Yeah, it's good,
over the
lovely.
next couple of years. So triathlon has brought you to the top and dropped you back down again. Um, but you've picked yourself up, dusted yourself down, and you've been chipping away, as I like to refer to it, training on the heart rate, and you're a wild man for the trails. You can't get enough of these trails. You've said it throughout the podcast to date. The harder, the better.
Yeah,
You don't pick handy courses, you know. And now you're running up and down mountains. What's the
yeah.
story with
Well,
these trails? I actually remember meeting you. I think at Tullymore, maybe a few years back. Um, I think you probably done the marathon or possibly the ultra. But I remember seeing you, and I remember thinking to myself, you know, geez, there's Lorcan. He's in some like I remember thinking you're like a friggin' gazelle, just bounding about, you know, and it amazes me the you know the energy and the physique of the trail runners, because these are a different breed, an absolute different breed, you know. But you've been up and down a few hills, it's fair to say.
yeah. I've done a few big races, like yeah, like I've always done trail running, like from back in the day when I first started. That was all I raced was trail races, like to be honest. Back when you were like 13, 14, 15, I remember mum and dad horsing you in the car on a Wednesday night to go to Hill and Dale and driving from Omagh to Newcastle to run a 3 mile mountain race. Like it's nuts. And then come back home. I've always trained in the glens, the trails, all through from a triathlon as well. Never left them. Know them like the back of my hand. And then I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to do stuff that I enjoy. Just go back to the very start. So literally, I've done full circle. I'm just back into the trail running now. And then yeah, I just love that sensation of just the harder the better. Like it has to be hard to get any pleasure out of this. Like it's so weird. Yeah, I just love that real hard grind. Just yeah, just it's class. And then yeah, I've been to Gran Canaria and I've done Trans Gran Canaria and then done a few around here, Tullymore Marathon. Was actually trying to do it this year, but a couple of niggles put it off and was fourth place in it 2 years in a row, which is a bit annoying. And then in May there, I went to Ultra Trail Snowdonia by UTMB to do the 55 kilometres. So with 3,500 metres of climbing, which was two Snowdonia plus two other smaller mountains. It was 10.5 hours of running, and that was the hardest thing I've ever done. Like you just can't underestimate how technical some of the trails are, and it just puts a far bigger demand on your body. And yeah, it's definitely potentially harder than the Ironman that I've done, to be honest. But yeah, absolutely loved it. Going back now with Neve to Gran Canaria in February to do another big 80 kilometre race. So yeah, just taking over now, Mickey, for the next few weeks and just trying to keep niggles at bay. They're just been littered the last 2 years with injuries and a bit of surgery and stuff. So just trying to get back into it, to be fair.
And you're still keeping up on the bike as well, Lorcan. We bumped into each other quite recently there at the Lakeland Gravel Grinder event, and it's something that you know it's right up your street because there's a few hills in that bloody event.
Yeah.
Christ of Almighty! It nearly broke me in two. You know that's 2 years in a row I've completed that event, but we've only ever done the 60 kilometers. Of course, you go for the 100 kilometers. But the bit that blows my mind is that there's 850 meters of climbing over the 60k course, and the last 40k of the 100k course has an extra 1,000 meters of climbing.
Yeah.
What the
Yeah.
hell?
I know, yeah. I love cycling, Mickey. I've always loved cycling. I'll never give it up. I think it's if you're just a runner, you should be cycling for your cross training. It's brilliant. And yeah, the Lakeland Gravel Grinder, what an event. Like, absolutely insane course. It's amazing. Just the atmosphere around it is just hard. It's just a great day. Meet so many people, have the crack on the bike. It's not a race. It's just get round it, look around you, meet new people. Just yeah, go hard if you want. Yeah, it's class. I really love that event. I think it's one of the things that if you're a cyclist, you have to try and do. You know, definitely try the gravel grinder. And there's a new one now, actually, the Borderlands round Belcoo as well in Fermanagh, which is nice. So yeah, I love cycling. I've always loved cycling. I think it's one of them things probably more people should be at if they're potentially runners and stuff. And yeah, just from my job as well, Mickey, I find cycling is one of the best things that you can do, even if you're rehabbing an injury. And yeah, it's just love cycling, and the gravel cycling now has become massive, and it's just perfect. Go out on the trails, and you're on a bike, and there's no traffic or nothing. Like it's far safer with the gravel bikes and a bit of mountain biking. So yeah, no, it's great.
I was going to ask you about the mountain biking. Have you dabbled in it much, or is it a wee bit too kind of risky? Or
That's the problem, Mickey. I remember going to, it was me and Dad were going to a race in Tenerife, and the race actually never happened. It was actually cancelled last minute. But I remember the week before, I was like, you know what, I'll go out in the mountain bike, hey, but speed, I just love speed. Speed in the bike, hey. I just went too fast down a hill, hey, and I absolutely nearly killed myself. So no, I've never been on a mountain bike since.
I
I
will.
think Dad nearly killed me as well when I come home all shredded, to be fair. Like.
I've had a few crashes myself. I've got a couple of scars, and I've witnessed a couple of crashes with guys on mountain bikes. High, and it'll put manners on you, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. No, I think cycling, mountain biking, gravel biking is brilliant. I think, like, to be fair, like triathlon is a great thing, and cycling is the biggest bit of it. So if you want to improve, do more cycling, and you'll improve your time. You improve your aerobic capacity. No like impact on through the limbs, and you can do more volume of it. So just by adding cycling and just increasing your volume, you'll get better no matter what.
Great stuff. So, Lorcan, what's next then for you in 2025? So you're heading out to Gran Canaria, and then you're maybe thinking about doing the Snowdonia one again. Is that right?
Well, 2025, just going to go definitely. I've entered Trans Gran Canaria, which is a big mountain ultra in Gran Canaria, and then I don't know what I'm going to do after that. There's a few more local ones around the Mourne and stuff that I would probably suit my capabilities, and I definitely think with the right training I could probably be quite competitive in them. So yeah, probably just stick a wee bit more local, and then end of 2025, I'm not too sure, Mickey, to be honest. Hey, and then I heard a rumor that potentially there's a guy going to come out of retirement to do an Ironman in 2026. So he's asked me. So well, he hasn't officially asked me, but he mentioned it to me on a coffee ride we went on. He may be able to work it out who it is, but if that's the case, I'll jump on that bandwagon and try and get a good time. But yeah,
That would be brilliant. I have a fair idea who you're talking about, and will not. There'll be no spoilers, not on this podcast.
no, definitely not. The wife might be a bit annoyed at him if I told her what he's about to do, but
Aye, well, I'm still working on that myself with my missus. You know
that's the tough
yourself.
bit. That's the tough bit.
I can't wait to find out just how that works out. I'll be looking forward to that one. I'll follow that journey for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, Listen, Lorcan, thank you very much, hey, for agreeing to come on the podcast and taking us through that journey. What a journey! What a
Yeah, thanks,
journey!
Mickey. Thank you. It's been brilliant. Hey, to be fair, just even reliving some of them races and stuff. Yeah, it was back in the day. It was triathlon. It's a wee bit more popular now, but back in the day when I was racing, yeah, it was savage stuff, and everyone was just hard men, like, and it was great. Hey, and just class. Would go back if I could rewind time. I would definitely would. Like, to be fair.
Well, you absolutely were one of those hard men, and you know it's always worthwhile just to remember that, just and reflect on that, and just breathe that in.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
no,
nobody can take that from you. But we often don't just remind ourselves just how fucking awesome we have been at some point. So it's worthwhile doing it now and again.
yeah. I think people doing triathlon, it's not all about doing. I found maybe potentially like triathlon now is Ironman. That's it. Don't
Hmm.
don't don't worry about doing an Ironman. Like, go and do a sprint triathlon. You've still done a triathlon, like, and give yourself credit for that, because that's class. Like, that's my with my job. Maybe you don't see people are able to do that, but people would love to be able to do that. So if you're doing triathlon or you're running and you've done something like that, just take credit, sit back and look at it and be like, you know what, that was bloody awesome. Just go out and do cool things, do cool shit that you can tell people that you've done. And yeah, just give if you're doing triathlon or you're running, give yourself credit, and you look back and be like, that was amazing. What that day was class. Even if it was a bad race, who cares? It's a race, big deal. There's other things going on. Just look at it, take the positives from it, and be like, you know what, that was actually lethal. I love that.
Good stuff and sound advice. Lorcan, thanks very much. Hey, hopefully now the niggles will stay away from me. I'll get through the winter training unscathed and live to tell the tale in Gran Canaria at your next big ultra.
Hopefully, Mackie. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.